When your body says no, what do you do? Welcome to the Black Madonna Codes, and we're going to delve deep into listening to our body and being in inclusive spaces right after we show our intro video. Welcome to the Black Madonna Codes, a weekly conversation for women leaders who know the sacred feminine cannot be contained, sanitized, or erased.
Through honest conversation about how the Magdalene principles are woven through history, race, spirituality, and current lived experience, we are widening the story and honoring the many cultures that have carried this wisdom.
We're inviting you to open your heart with us as we explore the Magdalene path with curiosity, humility, and reverence for the lineages we carry. All right. I'm so excited to be back on the show. It was a long trip. I felt like I was gone forever. I'd never been away from my family for that long. And 8 days. And I'm so glad to be back into this conversation with you today, Deidre. How are you today?
Good. Very good. It's my birthday tomorrow. I mean, Thursday.
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 Birthday. Woohoo! Happy birthday. A beautiful trip planned, I hear, with some sun.
Yes.
Beach.
Heading to the other side of the country, down to Tampa. So
awesome. Well, hey, we wanted to start this out by inviting those of you who are watching to muster up a little courage. Insert yourself into the conversation. Share some comments with us. We aren't going to break up the flow of the conversation to directly ask you questions. But we really do want to hear from you. We want to know what's hitting, what's resonating, what's feeling, crunchy, or whatever you want to say. We'd love to hear from you because we're getting some sweet reach outs and messages, and we love that too, where it's like, hey, I'm watching. And it's like, you are? We'd love for you to participate with us. And as long as the technology works right, we should be able to see those comments as well. So please do drop in with us. Today, we're talking about, what do you do when you experience discomfort in your body, or when discomfort shows up, and do you listen, and what does that look like and feel like, among some other things, and kind of how that ties into the Magdalene codes and the Black Madonna principles as we see them. So here we go.
Yes. Yes. You had, so you were away.
I was away.
And you were away. You had, you went to a speaker event where you were a speaker, right? Where you did some panels. And then you did a book signing for one of the books that your publishing company recently released.
Yep.
And it was a great community event.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it was so
what struck me when you shared with me about it was the contrast in the experiences that you had these back-to-back experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really interesting. And I'd love to go into a little bit about what my experience was. And I want to share this with care, because in each of the spaces, there were humans and individuals that I deeply care about and love. And the kind of intention for each of the spaces was really similar. And so it was really interesting to notice in my body, my own experience of each event and how one felt really different than the other. When I went into the event in the speaker event, I was very surprised. I started feeling these feelings of discomfort, or almost like I wanted to leave right away. And I know for me, when that shows up, my default is to bypass and start questioning myself. Like, what's going on with me? Am I being antisocial? Am I like, what is this? So I sat in a lot of curiosity around that for a big chunk of time. And ultimately know from experience that, like, wait a minute, I also need to really listen, because I know I'm learning how to listen to my own body, and I know it speaks wisdom. But it was crunchy for me.
Right. So you get to a place and your body automatically has your mind is trying to make sense of what's happening. Why am I having this reaction? Like I've showed up at the place that was on my calendar at the right, like I committed to be here. And now that I'm here, something, there's resistance. I'm having resistance in my body. And what is that? And why is that? So
Yeah.
kudos to you for recognizing it, because very often we just step over
Yes.
signals from our body, right? So that you were at least listening, that you had a listening for that.
Yeah. And that's really come from so much practice. I mean, I think that one of the elements that I experienced was a lot of people feeling the pressure to show up as arrived. Almost like, I have a mic in my hand, therefore I need to prove that my wisdom is worth hearing. And it was interesting being in a seat of noticing that, because I look back on my coaching career and I'm like, oh, that was me for a long time. There was one year where I led 2 like online teachings a week for a whole year. It was so exhausting. And every time, I mean, I was so drained that whole year, because I thought it was because I was pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. I think that was a smaller part of why it was so exhausting. I think it was so exhausting because on every time I went live, I thought, I have to prove that I know more, that I have it figured out, that I have arrived somewhere.
Yeah, like as opposed to leading from curiosity, right? Or being really present with everyone else who's in the space. It's an attempt at positioning yourself above everyone in the space, because that's who you think you're supposed to be, or who you think what you think it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, exactly.
And it becomes more about you than about the wisdom or the presence
Or the people in the room. Yeah, like definition of leadership over time has definitely evolved. I think inside of this, I'm thinking like it's the difference between leading with good information versus leading with community and connection.
Right.
And really that element of thinking like, I know stuff and these people need to know the stuff I know. Like, but the other thing that was really interesting for me to reflect on about how I, used to feel like that was how I needed to lead, is how uncomfortable I would feel in my body afterwards. And again, I thought, oh, I feel uncomfortable because I just did public speaking to a group of 200,000 people in this, whatever. Like, that's why I'm uncomfortable. But it was a different kind of discomfort. It was more this like, I'm dissociated, and there's like parts of me in all places right now, not all gathered here in this body.
Right. Right. Because one of the things I talk about is leading from wholeness. Can you lead from wholeness? Like, there's so many people out here leading from the fractured parts of themselves because they have all this stuff that's just not integrated. Stuff about them that they don't think is okay, that they don't want to show, that they don't want people to see, and that they're disassociating from. But it just makes your shadow really big.
Yep. And so, yeah, then as a recipient in the room, as someone who has really sought to get back into my own body, it was like, and I just find this like, that discomfort is a gift. But I was battling with myself the whole time. Like, oh, I'm not supposed to feel these ways. I'm being judgmental. Am I, and to really take time to be with like, what is presenting itself here in my body, and how do I listen in a way that matters, that feels like it's an integrity in my body.
Right. And it was a long, it was 3 days, right? That's a significant amount of time to be sitting in discomfort. I feel like 2 questions come up from that. Like, how do you sit with the discomfort, right? Or how do you know when to sit with the discomfort and when not to?
And isn't that the question? I mean, isn't that the question? I actually love that you just asked that question, because I don't have a solid answer. And I think the leadership element of coming in with more questions than we have answers to is so powerful, because it gives everybody in the room a chance to ask themselves and discover for themselves. So whatever I'm about to say is not going to be a one size fits all answer to anybody else's way that they work with their discernment and their intuition. And leading from questions is so powerful.
Can we talk about that? That's kind of Socratic method, right? With the questions. But I think it's really interesting that people really don't learn from information. If nothing else, our political discourse is teaching us that people do not learn from information. It's like Jesus did not give information. Jesus told stories, parables, so that people could see for themselves what they needed to see, so that they could be informed by what you just said, by their higher selves, so they can be informed by their own, because that's the only way it sticks. And there's a lot of, I don't know what to call it. I think you had a word for it. I don't want to call it false authority, but sort of contrived authority with, I have all the information, so that makes me the authority. And leadership is almost like, in terms of education, to educate, educare, the Latin is to bring out of.
Oh, I haven't heard that. That's so yummy.
Right. Educator, it's not about you putting something in, it's about you helping that person to discover that it's already in them and to bring it out, to bring them into awareness of what's already in there. And that makes a difference.
Makes such a difference. Yeah. So how do we know, right? How do we know when we're supposed to sit still? And how do we know when we're supposed to move? Well, there was.
What did you choose? What did you choose in this context? Okay.
I'm going to tell a story.
There we go.
There were a few moments when I felt the need to do a thing, and one of those moments, and again, like, I have so much love and respect for the people in this room, but I do think that there's agreements. Like when people come into a container and we have no clear agreements, there's a lot of blanket assumptions that get sort of thrown on to everyone, and one of those things that I saw again and again was speaking to heteronormative relationships. There was a lot of, well, women should do this and men should do this. And in a partnership, this is how it works. And da, 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 da. And because of my work with Embracing Your Arrows, the book that we published earlier this year, and getting to really deepen into conversations with people from every different orientation, every different way that you could be in relationships. Like, I was sort of aching. I mean, there were some people in the room who were clearly like not presenting male or female. And there wasn't conversation about pronouns or, anything like that. And then we have this, continual discourse in relationships in that way. And it just made me think, who else in the room is hearing all of these things and feeling like, wow, everyone in the room seems to feel very connected. And I feel like an outsider because I don't see myself represented in what's being spoken. And
not just you feeling like an outsider because you feel excluded from the conversation.
Yeah.
Like they're not including your story or your experience, and they think the experiences they're sharing are universal, and they're not.
That is the thing. And guilty a million times I've done that. Guilty. And it takes work to consider who might be in the room and how what you're saying might land. It takes work to be aware of that. I'm learning that firsthand. I'm in the middle of the learning process. So I did. I got up. I asked, can I share something? I blubbered through it. It was super imperfect. I was like, I don't even exactly know what I'm going to say when I get up there, but
so wait. So you went to a conference for speakers to speak at a conference and you didn't have your talk prepared?
This part, well, first of all, no, I never do that.
All right. But let's be clear about that. I'm like, wait a minute, that sounds strange, but go ahead.
No, especially because we were speaking on a panel. So we were speaking in reaction to
so it was a conversation.
Yeah, it was more of a conversation. But I actually got up outside of my assigned panel slot and said, can I have the microphone for a moment? I have something to say.
Wait, you're going too fast. You're going too fast. Wait a minute. So you're in the space. And you have the mic. No, you're in the audience, and the audience member gets up in the middle of the panel discussion. Is like, I have something I need to add in here.
Mm-hmm. They had opened up the floor for Q&A to the panel that had just spoken, and I said, I don't have a question. I have something to say.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And, yeah, and so they
and
said,
then so really what happened was you had discomfort, and that discomfort activated your leadership.
Yeah, because I mean, I was feeling all this like for people in the room, and then I'm also feeling like, what do I do? Like, okay,
right. But I wanted. You're going too fast. You're going too fast.
I love this, Deidre.
What did you do? What do I do? Who thinks that? Who thinks that thought? You see what's happening. Something's wrong about what's happening. I'm seeing that there are people here who are not being included in this conversation, and you have some compassion for them. And that moves you to take action. Most people don't have that thought. They don't have the thought of, there is an injustice afoot, and I feel compelled to correct the injustice, or to at least create a space or open the way for the injustice to be corrected.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who does that?
Well, thank you. I did. I feel flattered, and yeah, I did. I think too, because it's been so heavy on my mind. I've been doing so much work to create inclusive spaces. So it is I'm a little bit like it's like show and tell time. I'm a little bit like, hey, I know these things and we can really clear this up and it doesn't have to be like this, and like
Right.
like that in it.
But when you got to the mic, though, you didn't get up and speak from a place of, I know better than you. You didn't get up and speak from a place of making people wrong.
Yeah.
You just got up and you extended an invitation.
Yeah. Yeah. And my knee-jerk reaction is always performance. My knee-jerk reaction is always proving and being the shiniest person in the room. And I when I was talking to you about this earlier, Deidre, I was thinking about my life and the way, like, I was born from the minute I had ears to hear, it was like, your family screwed up. You are the promised child and you are going to save this family. Like, I was so little, that was the message. So from the beginning, it was like, you better be the best. You better be the shiniest. You're, whatever. And I had that reinforced again and again and again. And, whatever, like, sit in the front of the classroom, be the teacher's pet, be the straight A student, do the pageants, do the things.
No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah. and it's like, and I'm good at it. Like, I also love the stage, which is what, why I can do shows like this. And I love the stage. And I've had to learn to, like, check that. Wait a minute. What's my intention? If I get up right now, is it so that I can be like, hey, look at me? Because is that really my intention? And it was like, no, my intention is really like, how do I say something that will speak to those who are feeling like an outsider right now, or who might walk away from this experience feeling like, shit, something's wrong with me. Like, what am I thinking being at this speaking event? Like, what am I thinking? I'm not a leader, or like, I don't fit the norms, or I was like, how do I really do that? And how do I do that in a way that brings everyone in and maybe gives everyone else an opportunity to recognize, because everyone in the room were leaders. Everyone in the room had moments on the stage, it was like, how can this be something that really sinks in and maybe has an opportunity to change the way that people are doing community and doing leadership? So I got up and I made an invitation to, I pointed out the disparity that I saw. Then I made an invitation to those who have felt maybe bypassed in their experience, or how they show up, or who they are, or who maybe are looking around the room and being like, wow, everyone here seems to feel so connected and I sure don't. Like, that I'm an ally and that I would be honored to receive their feelings, their story, anything they want to share. And then I made an invitation for everyone in the room, if they also felt like they would like to be that trusted person, that they weren't going to stomp all over somebody else's lived experience, and they would be honored to have someone come to raise their hand. And everyone in the room raised their hand. Then I realized I didn't say it super well. So I said it a little bit more clearly and made one more invitation to raise your hand because I was also like, because the way I set it up at first made it sound like, if you don't raise your hand, you're an idiot or you're a bad person because you can't hold space, right? This sort of like, my husband was like, wait, you said it like that? Well, everybody in the room is going to raise their hand, because otherwise, like, who's that jerk that's not raising their hand? So I rephrased it a second time and said, maybe you don't feel like you have capacity right now, or whatever. Like, it's okay if you're not raising your hand right now, to say like, hey, I want to, be a safe space for someone. And then still everybody rose their hand. And so it just was like, Well, it went really well. In hindsight, after like 5 minutes of blabbering on the microphone, I was like, that went really well. And I did have people come up to me after that and share just a little bit and say it was much appreciated. And that, and that mattered.
Very much so. Very much so. So, can we tie this? Because we still want to talk about what happened at the next event. But can we tie this back to the Magdalene?
Yes. I think, like, again, I was kind of pulling this tug of war between, like, is something wrong with me? Why am I think I was feeling, because I have this inclusive eye now, I was feeling left out because it wasn't an inclusive space. And then recognizing this is that refining, and this is me getting to be with discernment. That is one of the Magdalene principles, being so discerning, and then being able to stand up even when you're the only one, to say something different than the maybe blanket agreement that's showing up in the space.
The unconscious, unspoken agreements.
Yes. And to knowing
those unspoken, unconscious agreements. And then everybody's got a different idea of what the agreement is in their head because it's not spoken.
Yeah, exactly. Which definitely is the breeding ground for lots of misunderstandings.
Definitely.
And then at the end of the day, this, like, body as truth, like, on this pilgrimage, and anybody who's followed any of my coaching work and stuff for all the time, is pleasure as a principle. Like, we have this emphasis we're hosting a Magdalene Pleasure Pilgrimage. If you're new to the conversation, we're taking everyone in September. We'd love to have you join us. We've created that space intentionally with pleasure as a focus, because pleasure is the most body-based experience we can tap into. You can't experience pleasure without incorporating your body, and body is the queen. Body is the one who says hell no to this thing and hell yes to this thing. And so many of the systems that, we're born into or subscribe to, or, our cultures or our whatever, have taught us different elements of bypassing those messages from our body. And oh my gosh,
the body doesn't lie either. It does not lie.
I just
we can ignore it. We can ignore what it says, but it's not going to lie to us.
On my plane ride, I listened to, I'm almost finished with, My Grandmother's Hands by, so who is the author?
Oh, don't start me to telling tales. I'll look it up real quick.
We got to do justice because this book is so incredible. All right. I win. Resmaa Menakem. I'm probably not pronouncing that properly. But it's such a good book. And it's all about, well, actually, if I could sum up the book from my own perspective in one sentence, it's that we heal racism across the globe by healing the trauma in our body. It's like, so brilliant. But this is the piece, right? If we don't even know how to hear our inner yes and no, or how to hear those subtle whisperings of, like, this doesn't feel right, what we're constantly bypassing ourselves, that is like that inner opportunity to be with our body. And the more we can do that, the more we give others permission to do that. And when we move from that space, that is where we create, like, love as the highest principle and all the things that we want in community. It's been a lot of learning.
I mean, if you're not learning, what are you doing?
So, and then I had this amazing opportunity to contrast all of that discomfort in my body with Detroit. And hopefully some of you have seen some of the posts and things. I think there's more videos coming. huge shout out to Berhinda. She resourced all kinds of people, videographer, photographer. You know, we had a caterer. We had this incredible space. It looked like we were on an Oprah show. And, you know, all these chairs set out for the community. And then at the end, we had this whole book signing and everything. And I just felt nothing but openness and expansion. And like, this was rooted in something so real. There just was a different feeling. My experience was so different.
Different from the previous experience at the speaker event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people still had a mic, and people still like. I think that there was nothing to prove. There was nothing to perform. We were literally putting on a show, and it was just about honoring what's already there, what's already real.
And people were sharing their stories too.
Stories.
They weren't sharing information. Mm-hmm. They were sharing their stories. Everybody got to read like a little excerpt from the book. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep. And our questions were really rooted in like, I think focusing on your own lived experience as well is so powerful to be able to say like, well, this is what I went through, and this is, you know, the things that occurred to me as a result of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then people could take what they needed from your story and leave what they didn't.
Mm-hmm. It also felt really good. Like, there was some discussion about how, as we were cultivating that event, about how to hold that event. And what we ended up doing, I didn't share from my chapter, and I didn't really share like, hey, here's me, here's my story. We, and neither did Jennifer, which Jennifer is, was the lead of the project. I'm the publisher. She was the lead, and Trish also came in support and shared like an opening from her Anishinaabe roots, and she's a history teacher in First Nations and Indigenous cultures and teachings, and she shared a bit from that to like set the stage. But we really all showed up to honor the Detroit authors.
Right.
That was so powerful to, you know, like I flew across the country, not to say, look at me, but to say, look at them. It was really powerful.
Right. To bring recognition to people and stories that are often overlooked. Mm-hmm. The significance of those stories. And what was the impact of that? What was the feedback that you got from people?
It was amazing. And it was such a gift to me. It was like, I don't, as a publisher, I rarely get to see any kind of like impact outside of the author themselves. And like, you know, I had some of my authors' adult children and grandchildren like hugging me, thanking me for supporting their grandma and mother to get her story written and published in a book. And like, and I saw how like these women are already leading. That's who my authors are, right? They're people who are already doing really cool shit in the world. They're already leading in their communities, but I think each of them are leading in ways that are often not like thanked, not thankless jobs, not necessarily recognized or acknowledged.
Right. They're not doing sexy work.
Yeah.
They're not going to the Met Gala. They're not going to grace the cover of a magazine, but they're in the weeds.
Maybe now they are. Now that they're published.
Yes.
Yes.
I love it. And so,
yes, and so for them to become published international best-selling authors, and we, everybody had a door charge, and included with their door charge was a copy of the book. And then, of course, like I said, they could come and get their book signed and everything. And it was like this acknowledgement from their whole community of like, oh, like you are doing some things. This is exemplary. There was questions from the audience like, how do we bring this wisdom to our youth who are struggling and to our struggling families? And just like, it was just so rooted in stuff that's so real. And oftentimes the answers were more questions like how do we really be, and how do we hold again, because we're in a divine feminine event, like how do we hold our own rest and our own pleasure and our own self-care, while also like holding the needs and issues of our community, and so that we can all like grow together and progress together. It was just like, yeah.
right. I mean, I really think what you said just there is very it's like a tipping point for why because the book was the High Priestess book, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Modern day high priestess. Yeah.
About why this conversation about priestesshood or the divine feminine is so resonant and so sticky right now, especially in the realm of personal development, is because it's a counterbalance to the conversations, the traditional, conversation about a woman's role, right? A woman's role is to serve. A woman's role is to bear children and keep the house. And there's a lot of doing. There's a lot of doing in that. And the divine feminine conversation and the Magdalene conversation and the priestess conversation is about to almost like the yin to that yang, all that yang stuff. It's, you can do all of that. It's not, there's no bastardization of that stuff. And you need to also have this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? You need to also have rest. You need to also have pleasure. You need to also have presence. Yeah. You need to also have perception and discernment. Right? You need to also have a no. You need to also have boundaries.
Exactly.
Right? And so, for so long, it's like when, I don't know if you know Shel Silverstein's The Giving Tree.
Oh yeah. Classic.
Right, the children's book. Right, classic. But to me, that book is kind of about motherhood. You just give and you give and you give and you give and you give, and then all that's left is a stump. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be that kind of
a painful book.
And it's a children's book. It kind of is like Grimm's fairy tales.
Yeah.
Because if you read the Grimm's fairy tales, there's not a happily ever after at the end.
Yeah.
There's a lesson at the end of the story. And Disney came along and Disneyfied it and made it,
sparkly.
Yes, sparkly and unreal. And yeah. And so that's part, I think, of why this divine feminine and priestess and Magdalene conversation is important right now. Because you need that. You need space to receive, to be honored, to receive the honor. Just how many people, they can't even take a compliment?
Yeah.
They can't just say thank you. They have to have some sort of explanation or some sort of, they demur, right? Or they self-deprecate, or, just like, oh yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, no, maybe it is. Maybe you could just say thanks.
Yeah. It's so real. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Big, beautiful conversation. And I do think like it is interesting to me that like as I have followed these whisperings from Magdalene from multiple, different backgrounds, from multiple different like lineages and things, there is this emphasis on like I don't see Magdalene as a holy light figure. Just like I don't see women as a holy light figure. We are not just light. We are light and dark. And getting
Wait,
to
pause. Can you pause for a second? I'm sorry. When you say holy, are you saying it with a W or are you saying with an H?
W.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
in completely.
Completely. We are not all light. And nor do I think that's the goal. That's the bypass, right? Like
Mhm.
that's the piece that we're talking to. And when we really allow ourselves to be with all that it means to be a woman, we get to be with some of those dark elements.
Right. You get to own your Lilith, the
Exactly.
dark feminine. You get to own your Lilith. You get to have anger, your rage. You get to have the full spectrum of the human experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, when we're saying, oh wait, okay, if we're not all just being light beings all at once, and that's not the whole goal, and whatever, then there has to be room for nuance in community spaces. There has to be room for people to come in with every different perspective and not need everyone in the room to be like, yes, I agree. Like that is it's a toxic, and I think like coming from a very high demand toxic religion is also part of where the discomfort in my body shows up. I'm so grateful I had that experience for a big ass chunk of time so that I can recognize, oh, I'm in one of those spaces again where it feels like everybody's got to conform, and and that's not honoring. And so anyway, I think this conversation matters so much. I think it matters so much when we think about who the Magdalene is, when we think about, you know, what Black Madonna represents, and the man, many layers that each Black Madonna figure represents, and when we think about who we are as women, and how we're holding spaces. Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, I think I'd just like to wrap this up today, you know, by dropping you in that if you've listened with us for all this time, thank you, because this conversation too has been gritty, and we'd love to hear, you know, what your thoughts and feelings are in relation to these principles that we've been talking about. And I'd also love to extend that invitation to come to France with us. This is the kind of space we're holding. These are the kind of conversations we're having, where it's comfortable to show up with more questions than answers, and it's okay to show up as you are, and no one is expecting you to have been arrived. And we'd love to have
Right.
you.
And no matter what level you're at, there's
Mhm.
always questions. There's always another level to get
Mhm.
to. If you're still here, you still have more work to do. All of us, no matter how much
Yes.
work you've done. And sometimes the work is getting back to beginner's mind. When you
Mm-hmm.
get back to the beginning, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's that.
Somehow I live my life feeling like I'm always at the beginning. But it definitely keeps things interesting and keeps me in that leader space. That you know, I'm listening, and I'm, you know, going, oh my gosh, how are others like experiencing things, and how am I fitting in relation to that, and what can I do? And yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
That's good stuff. Thanks, Deidre. And thanks to those of you who have watched with us. And I'm kicking off, now that I'm back, kicking off Magdalene interview series again this week. And we will see you again next week on the Black Madonna Codes.
100%.